Okay, let's have a look at a situation where Silverlight wants to modify some of the HTML DOM content that surrounds it. So this is just a blank Silverlight solution. We've got a page.xaml, we've got a test page, which is an aspects page that will be used to host the Silverlight content. So you can see here's the ASP.NET Silverlight control, which is hosting that content. And I suppose what we could do is just add some placeholder onto the ASPX page in order that we can manipulate that from within Silverlight, something like that. So perhaps what I'll do here is take this Silverlight div, and let's make the height of this just 50% of the page or something like that instead. And then let's go and add another div on here, and I'll give that an ID of my div, something like that. And into my div, let's just sync these two things together. I guess what we could do is put something like I don't know, let's say here come the results or something like that. And perhaps, actually, let's not make that one my div. Let's have another div in here. We'll make that one my div, and we'll get rid of the ID off that one. So we've got this place, it's a little placeholder where we can put something. Let's go back to our Silverlight XAML, and let's just drop into the grid on here a really big button, which will say click me. And we'll say click equals on click. And that should paint in a second. It's pretty big. We'll leave it being pretty big. Perhaps we'll have a little margin around it just so it doesn't look quite so scary. Let's marginalize it. And let's go to the code behind this and write an on-click handler. So we'll go ahead and say on-click. Okay? And what we're going to do in here is try and grab hold of the HTML DOM, and particularly that myDiv element that we just put in there. Let's imagine we've got some data in .NET, so maybe we've got some sales data or something like that, and we'll just create this as an array of anonymous types here. And we'll say that each sales data, let's say it's something to do with fruit. So we'll say fruit equals apple, we'll say quantity equals 10, we'll say price equals 10.5 decimal. And let's just copy that and have whoops, excuse me, that's not very pretty. We'll have 5 entries here, and we'll just create these things just to give us something to play with. So let's say banana, let's say pear, let's say orange, let's say grape. And it doesn't really matter what the prices and quantities are, but let's just change some of the numbers so that we can see them. We'll have 30, we'll have 50, we'll have 80, we'll have 20, and we'll just change some prices. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we've got some .NET data. We may have got this from a web service, we may have got it from anywhere, but it's .NET data. And what I want to do is get hold of that div and take this and turn it into a table within that div. So how do we get hold of the div? Well, essentially the key thing to know about is a class called HTML page, and HTML page will let us get hold of the document as an HTML document. And you're kind of wandering into the DOM wheel to some extent here, but one of the methods that's available to you is get element by ID, and this is going to give me my div in this case. So I'm going to say give me that, and that will give me an HTML element. Let's just say element equals. And having got that, I can now start to take this table and turn it into something else. And in fact, as part of doing that, we will want the HTML document quite a lot, so let's just say doc equals HTML page.document, just as a shortcut so that we can keep using that. Let's now say create a table. So say HTML element table equals doc.create element. That element is going to be a table. And let's then start to loop. So we'll say for each item in our sales dates, I think we should refactor at that point and call that sales data. That's not very good because it's not sales dates, is it? Let's just refactor that quickly. Let's call that sales data. Fantastic. We won't go crazy here, but we'll just go ahead and say that we'll create a row. So we'll have row equals doc.create element. That's going to be a tr. And then we'll say table.append child at the end of that, which is going to be the row. And I guess we should have done that for the div as well at some point. Should we say element.append child, and that would be the table at the end of all this. So let's say HTML element fruit equals, that's doc.create element, and we'll go for a td. And then we'll say fruit dot set attribute we'll go for inner text, and we'll just set that to item dot fruit, and then we want to do row.append child of the fruit element, and then we're going to do that 2 more times basically for the quantity and the price. So we'll create another one of those. We'll call this one quantity. We'll go ahead and set quantity dot to be quantity dot toString, and we'll go and append quantity, and then we'll create one more which is going to be price, and we'll say price dot, and then we'll say item dot price dot toString, and then we'll go and append price in there. We're appending the row, we're appending the child. Let's see if we can build. Let's go and see if we can run. Just letting that page fire up in the browser. So ideally when we click this, we'll probably get a failure, but interesting. So we're not seeing anything happening there at the moment. Let's go and just make sure our event handler is firing. Let's just set a breakpoint there. Let's click. Okay, so we are indeed finding the document. We're finding the element, which is the div. We're ripping through our sales data, creating a table row, creating a table cell, 3 of those things. We're appending that to the table. We go around 3 times. And then we should drop out of that. Oh no, we've got 5 of these things. Let's run to this place down here, and then we append that table. And let's just have a look at the inner HTML for this thing. So let's bring up a watch window. There's watch number 1, and let's look at let's have a look at table here. It's an HTML element. Let's see if we can call table.get attribute with inner HTML. Looks like we can. Let's see if we can view that in a browser. Looks reasonable to me. Let's have a look at the outer HTML of table. So let's say table.get attribute outer HTML. Let's have a look at that one. See what that looks like in a visualizer. So that looks fine. Let's just try a different visualizer and see if we can see it as HTML instead. Looks like a perfectly decent table to me. So I would have expected that to work. I'm not sure quite what I'm doing wrong there. So let's go about this a slightly different way, and we already know that we can say element.setAttribute, and we'll say inner HTML, and we could say table.getAttribute outer HTML, and just configure those things sort of to plug to each other that way instead. Let's see if we can make a difference that way. Let's press F5. Let's click our Silverlight button. Let's take away our breakpoint, press F5. And we're seeing our table appear on the screen. I'm not sure if I've got a misunderstanding of the object model there, or I've hit some quirk, but we can certainly make the thing work. And really, creating a table is not the point of the exercise. The point of the exercise is to show you that we can program against classes that represent the HTML DOM. We can grab hold of elements, and then we can start to create content. There's a lot more we can do in interacting with the HTML DOM, but here in this video we're just looking at how we can create something. But you're getting the idea of how we can grab DOM content and how we can start to manipulate it with things like set attribute, create element, of course from the DOM, and things like get element by ID, which is just hanging off up here.